problems that you have. Kind of explain to you the terms of what each one of them are. Of course, there's always problems whenever you paint something. Everybody thinks, oh yeah, you walk out of the spray booth and everything looks perfect. Not. It doesn't always work that way. Usually you end up fighting your way through stuff. Depends on how you got your stuff set up. I mean, some guys, when they're doing, especially when it's old classic cars, you know, if you're doing like a job on a new car that's in perfect shape, and you know, you're pretty well able to contain everything and doing spot work and stuff like that. You know, you keep everything pretty much like brand new. But when something's really, really old like this thing, you always have issues. So anyway, I'm going to kind of explain to you some of the things there are. One of them is, a lot of people don't know what orange peel is, so I'm going to start with the simplest one, which is orange peel. And that's orange peel right there. And a lot of times people call orange peel they get confused orange peel with a dry spot. This orange peel, the reason it happened, because I actually put the material on a little bit too heavy at once, because I was using 8 pounds of pressure to spray this because I was spraying it outside. So, you know, those are the types of things you're going to have if you're using really low pressure. You're going to get orange peel in your paint because you're not able to turn the pressure up high enough to atomize it, break it up really fine, and spray it on and lay it on really nice. Like some people that hold their gun too close, they hold their gun too far away, those things create orange peel. But typically it's because you're not atomizing the material enough. So, and layering it on nice and slowly. You know, layering it, not putting on too much at once. That'll cause orange peel. Dry spots. Now, typically, a lot of people get this confused with orange peel. And what orange peel is like I said, it's not atomizing enough. Dry spot is basically you have an area where you stopped and you didn't continue your wet edge. So, or you're painting the paint too dry, which is very, very, very heavy orange peel. If you have really heavy orange peel, like maybe right here is a dry spot. This is a dry spot right here. I got a little bit too dry. I probably didn't stroke all the way over. There's a lot of corners and edges in this area. You're going to have a few flaws. The way to, you know, normally if I was doing this full show, I would do something like, I would paint this once. I would have done a whole lot more prep to this. It would have been spent like probably a month or 2 months on just this area because it's so bad. It was in super bad shape. And I would do this vehicle once, and then I would sand this down at this point, and I'd get it all sand it down, color sand it with 600 grit again, and then paint the whole thing again. You just not paint the whole thing, but just clear it again. So do a real nice color sand job with 600 grit, and then respray it. So if you're looking for that real smooth finish, that's how you do it. You do it once and then do it again. It comes out way better the second time. It just flows. It's like a flow coat goes into the other coat, and it just really smooths it down. It's not the thickness of the clear. People think it's the thickness of the clear. It's just how smooth it is. To me, these jams look perfect for when I put the seat in. There's a few runs in it. I'll color sand and buff the dash. I put enough on there to do it, and it's no big deal. So another thing that you're going to run into in painting is guys call this stuff frog skin, or there's a few different terms for it. Frog skin. Another one is called I'm trying to think what they call it. Solvent trap. Those two are the same thing. I'll tell you what they are. When I was painting in the back, I used the wrong thinner, and I'll show you what it turns out, because I did this on purpose because I didn't really care. If you look at that really close, in the very edge I sanded a little bit, but up here, when I put on the that looks like primer, but it's actually satin finish, oil base. When I put that on, I used lacquer thinner in with the paint, and because I just wanted it to dry fast. I didn't want it to, and what those little things that look like sand in the paint are tiny bubbles, and they're all over this whole floor. That you don't really notice it because when it's got flooring in here, you're not going to see it at all. So what do I care? I mean, some people do, but not me. Okay, so that's blood. No, I'm just kidding. So what usually causes that is the surface of the paint is drying faster than the underneath. So the solvents get stuck inside the paint and are bubbling their way out of the paint. So if this happens, there's a lot of different ways for this to happen. Like you're using too fast a reducer on your last coat. If you go with a slower reducer, the last coat, it will help release the solvents. Another way to fix that is to not paint anything. No, I'm just kidding. Another way to solve the problem is to get sometimes you're catalyzing too fast too. That can cause it. You're putting too heavy of a coat on. But usually what that does is that causes something called blushing, which is another thing that you have happen. Where blushing is you're putting on too heavy of a coat and the solvents kind of coagulate inside the paint and are unable to release. Sometimes it turns white, and usually that's the material. If you're using a cheaper material, the solvent, there's too much solvents in the material and it's hard. Like a really cheap clear will turn white. When you have runs or something like that, you put it on too heavy, it'll start to turn white. So the way to get around that is you're going to have to sand that clear off, and you're going to have to use another clear that's a better quality clear. So another thing is, everybody knows what these are, and I'm getting them every once in a while, but there's a little tiny one right there, a little run, okay, runs. And how you fix those is basically if you used a good quality clear, you can just sand them out and buff it out. Or if you're painting while it happens and your base coat's really good and hard and dry, you can use a piece of tape and put it over the runs, and pull them back, and it'll kind of smooth them out a little bit so it's a little bit easier to fix. But these were so minor, very, very low, so I didn't worry about it. Some other things. Trying to think of them. Oh, another one that happens, one of the worst things to happen when you're painting is wrinkling. Now, that's usually happens. I don't have anything I can show you that one on, because that's an awful situation. What happens is what happens when you get a wrinkle? Why does it happen? Okay, usually the coat you were going over. Let's say I painted something, and then the first coat wasn't completely dry or completely catalyzed, and then I went to paint something else over it, and what happens is it starts to wrinkle. When I go to paint it over, it starts to wrinkle the old finish because the first coat hasn't fully catalyzed. So with the coat I'm putting over it is catalyzing, and it's causing the paint to actually lift off. Unfortunately, today, a lot of the materials today, you can actually just sand it down a little bit, let it dry completely, sand it down a little bit, color sand it with wet paper, and sometimes you can go over it with light coats. You have to use really, really light coats, let them completely dry, and then you can sometimes go over that wrinkle. But as far as the longevity of the finish, it might not last as long right there, so you probably should strip it down to bare metal or pass that coat and start over. But I don't know, that's the way it used to be. We just have to do that all the time with the old finishes, lacquers and stuff like that. They don't even have them anymore. But so those are the types of things that can happen. There's a few others with paint finishes, and when you see it's modeling. Okay, what modeling is sort of looks like this right here on this light. I made it do this on purpose. So they call it modeling, but it's really like you did something really wrong if it happens. Some guys say modeling is from like a wrinkle. So if you see something, you have to kind of look at the modeling and see what kind of modeling it is, and then figure out why it happened. You know, you're constantly in painting, you're constantly trying to figure out why things happen, because you try and do everything right and then still stuff goes wrong. So it's just the way it is. I mean, that's just, a lot of people say, oh, if I do everything right and I use all the chemicals the right way and I do everything right, then everything should be right. Well, that would normally be true, but it just doesn't seem to always work that way. Luck has something to do with it for some reason. And, you know, as long as I've been painting, I try to do everything right, but sometimes stuff fails and you don't really know why sometimes, and trying to figure it out. And that's why a lot of big companies use, you know, big paint manufacturers like, what's it called? Like when I did the color here. Ow. I did the color match on this, and then I went to go repaint it, and the color was way too orange that I was using. So I had some other paint and I had to rematch it in the middle, you know. So these jams are the wrong color, but it's hard to tell. They're so small that you probably wouldn't even notice. So, but I'm going to go ahead and I'm not sure if I'm going to fix them or not. But it's weird, when I did the engine area, I stirred everything up good, I checked everything out, and for some reason the paint changed color on me. I don't know why. It was scrap paint that I mixed up, so who knows, maybe one didn't like the other or something. But there's just a million things that can go wrong. But I did have some factory mixed Singlax red, so I went ahead and used that, and it's definitely the right color now. It's got that same original paint look. So anyway, just wanted to give you guys some ideas about painting and what types of things go wrong and what how to fix some of them. I wouldn't be able to tell you guys everything. There's too many things that go wrong. There's millions of things that can actually go wrong in painting. There's, you know, after you've been doing it for years, you find new things that happen. You're like, how did that happen? How come I got solvent trapped from that material? Oh, because that material requires, you know, a slower reducer. You know, there's just so many things, and then adhesion problems, and you know, why did something lift off something else, and you know, it's just all chemicals and issues you have with it. So, and different colors have different problems. You know, if you have a darker color, sometimes they don't last as long, or something happens to them that doesn't happen with a lighter color. You know, you might think your buffing looks terrible on a dark color, and you use a light color and it looks perfect. You don't know, you know, but it was there in the dark color, and you just didn't notice it. So anyway, those are the types of things that go wrong painting, and some of the ideas and some of the terminology. So that if you see that stuff, it kind of gives you an idea of what you're dealing with.